So, and what do I mean by unique selling proposition? I had a client that they were advertising like a normal custom home builder. I deep dive, I start asking questions because it's often layers deep. And what I found was that it was like 80 to 90% of their clients were mum and dad developers. So why are you positioning yourself as a general builder when you're not even trying and they improve the quality of the leads coming through? So this is the sort of stuff when you get the positioning right can make a massive difference. And it's often very hard to see it when you're inside the bottle because you get...
Welcome to the Shifan Show. This episode is brought to you by the Prosperum Publishing System. For thought leaders and content creators looking to build lasting value, this publishing system transforms your expertise into evergreen digital products and assets. With business systems that work independently from social platforms and algorithm changes, this performance-based model is all about turning valuable content into sustainable enterprise value without relying on social media platforms. Details in the show notes below. But let's dive into today's episode. Today's guest, I'm very excited to have Scott Bywater. Scott's somebody who left home at the age of 17 with a bag and a train ticket all the way to Sydney. No plan and no vision in sight, but he spent years in every type of sales imaginable, including door-to-door sales, cold calling, etc., before meeting Jay Abraham at a seminar, which pointed him towards strategic copywriting and marketing. 20 plus years later, he's behind $500,000 launches, six-figure campaigns across multiple industries, and even founded Elite Marketers, one of Australia's top peer groups for serious marketers. Welcome to the show, Scott.
Yeah, great to be here, Ian. Thanks for having me.
No worries, and big shout out to Phil for connecting us out of the blue over email. That was nice of him.
No, he's a good guy, Phil.
Yeah, awesome. So Scott, it's quite amazing because I had a lot of marketers and copywriters on this show, but typically from America or across the pond or whatever they call it. But it's quite rare to get an Australian copywriter marketer. So do you mind just sharing a bit about your background and what you're up to these days?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I guess where you started in the intro, I started quite young. Was involved in a lot of sales roles. Went to Jay Abraham and went, wow, I love this stuff. And then I really stayed in sales from probably 17 to 24 when I went to a Brad Sugar's seminar, and he's like, get a business for free, build it up, and then sell it at a whatever multiple. And I thought, oh, that sounds good. So anyway, very green. We got in there. I think we took over a shell of a hairdressing salon, and we did manage to get clients and all that sort of thing. But it ended up being somewhat of a disaster because we didn't really have experience in managing staff and managing money and all of those other aspects of running a business. So, but I got out of that and I thought, well, I know I can market. I know I can get people in. So I set myself up as a marketing consultant, and I did that for probably 6 months or so. And it was quite tough, that period. And I was getting by on the smell of an oily rag, literally. And then my now wife saw this ad for a copywriter, and Woman's Intuition or whatever. She's like, you should go for this ad. So I went for this ad. I went for this job. And long story short, I didn't get the job, but I got the confidence because the copywriter manager really liked me, and you had to send a test task in and that sort of thing. Nice. And but the HR manager didn't, because she grilled me about my history. What did you do before this job, and what did you do for that job? What did you do for that job? And it was quite checkered at the time. So I didn't get the job, but I got the confidence. And from then on, when I switched positioning, my income jumped 10 times overnight. So admittedly from a low base, it wasn't, but it literally just shifted. That's when I understood the power of positioning and the importance of positioning, because you can be doing virtually almost the same thing, but your everything jumps. And I've recently repositioned, just in the process, in a different way, moving from copywriter to strategist under my personal
Nice.
brand, and then the company comes under that. So scottbywater.com .au it is, and then it goes into, from there, I will then push business into copywriting that sells, or I've got another business for builders called Builder Content Marketing,
Mm,
and so on. But positioning, I think, is the most underrated thing that most people overlook, and it
yeah.
means their marketing then struggles as a result, despite they might be incredibly skilled, but their marketing struggles because they don't have the right positioning.
That's incredible, actually. Finding we say the HR officer or like director didn't like you, like sometimes it tends to be the HR people, like nothing against them. It's just always funny. You always hear like HR as a part of the joke. But that's interesting
Yeah.
because like I think we say positioning, so basically like how you're promoting yourself or how you're positioning your offer. Like how would you define position in this sense?
Well, it's a work you do before you start marketing. So one of the things I've learned over the last few years we work quite a bit in the construction space,
Mm,
is the importance of design. So if you're going to build a home, right? I mean, you could just start laying the slab tomorrow and then putting bricks up, and you would end up with a home, but it wouldn't necessarily be the sort of home that you want. And it's the
yeah.
same with marketing. So one of the big things with marketing is people go out and they're like, oh, we want to run some Facebook ads. So they run off and they run Facebook ads, or they run Google ads, and they're sending them to a page which hasn't been thought through, and then it doesn't work very well, and they go, oh, this marketing stuff, it's crap,
Mm,
and I'll go back to word of mouth. Like I'm sure that scenario has played out thousands of times. I've got no doubt on that. So but if you tried to build a house, it would be a mess too if you didn't do the foundational work. And the
mm,
foundational work I look at is getting like crystal clear on your avatar. In many cases, it's avatars. You may even do some buyer persona work where you interview your
yep.
clients and really understand, or prospects who have decided not to go with you, and understand the exact conversation going on in their mind. Then getting clear on your core story, because people want to connect emotionally with the
Mm,
founder of the company, and then getting clear on your unique selling proposition. So, and what do I mean by unique selling proposition? I'll give you some examples. So I had a client and from Auckland, and they were in the construction niche. And one of the things that they were advertising like a normal custom home builder. I deep dive. I start asking questions.
mm.
Because it's often layers deep. And what I found was that no, it was like 80 to 90% of their clients were mum and dad developers. And
Okay. All right.
I'm
Interesting.
like, so why are you positioning yourself as a general builder when you're not even trying? Yeah, you're not like the dead giveaway is you're not even trying, and you're attracting this sort of business. So you obviously have something that these guys want. So we reposition them as a mum and dad developer. We redid all their web copy. They actually took aspects of the copy from their website.
Yeah.
I didn't even write it, and they turned it into Facebook ads, and they more than tripled their results, and they improved the quality of the leads coming through. So this is the sort of stuff, when you get the positioning right, can make a
Mm,
massive difference. And it's often very hard to see it when you're inside the bottle, because I mean, we all do it, right? You get inside your own
yeah.
echo chamber, and someone else can see what you should do better than what you can see it, because you're just in that same conversation every
Yeah. Yeah.
day, and you can't see the forest from the trees. But I had another builder that, like, they were positioned as generic. And it's like, oh, well, ask them what the business they do. 80% of the work they did was acreage, and they lived on acreage all their life. I was talking to someone today, and 90% of the clients they were getting were coming from interstate. So,
Interesting. Wow.
but their advertising was generic. So it's all these things which
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
in the finesse of what you're doing. And if you don't get that positioning right, you start advertising generic, and then you're in the competition game. Whereas you want to get out of the competition game, so you're in the blue ocean, you're not in the red ocean.
That's so true, actually. Because like Interesting. I had another guest on the call. Not sure you know John Caprani. He's from Ireland, UK originally, but is now in Spain as well. He said, like, I think one of his calls or something he shared before, when he during COVID, I think he became a copywriter because being a builder or a tradie, like you can't handle work, and he kept positioning himself as copywriting. I think until he read or listened to Dan Kennedy like clip or something saying he never positioned himself as a copywriter or whatever. He says I'm a marketing consultant. And all of a sudden, like his DMs are just blowing up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Positioning is like it's so crucial, and I look at it as like it's not necessarily your marketing is wrong. Sometimes it's what's built underneath it. Because
yeah,
if you don't have the positioning, you can't do the right ads, you can't do the right web copy, you can't do the right
mm,
content, can't do the right emails. Everything is based on that foundational positioning. And for example, from a copywriting perspective, right? It's like when I first started copywriting was like 23 years ago, right? So it's where the market's at as well. So the market's
mm.
obviously changed a lot in the last 2 or 3 years, right? So the work I'm
With
doing
AI and
now
everything. Yeah.
compared with the work I was doing 5 to 7 years ago, it's the same, but it's different, and people's perception is different.
Mm.
So you need to be able to shift with where what do they say, the famous ice hockey guy Wayne Gretzky, shift, move to where the puck is going. Yeah,
Yeah,
see
yeah,
where the
that's
puck's
true.
going, and then move towards it. So I think as a marketer, we need to be really aware of that and conscious of that.
I want to touch base on that one because I know when we're doing stuff online, it's easy to pivot. It's easy to like adjust your offer or your copy or your messaging because we're doing things online, right? I mean, the very most probably lose maybe a few $100 on ads and maybe a funnel website. But for businesses that you consult with, well, they have a lot of overhead that they established for years. Like, do you help them? I guess like, I want to ask you. There's probably two ways to it. Like, do you help them establish a new positioning based on the research they find, and then they adjust their lane that way, or do you say like we said just now, what's 90% of your customers or clients asking about you?
Yeah,
Because yeah, sorry, because sometimes when people they don't know the answer, but some people want to be known a certain way, but the market's going in different directions. So how do you help them adjust it from those two different directions? Say a traditional business that's been established for like 2 decades, very hard to move considering everything they have, versus like starting a new offer from scratch.
yeah. So it's a like I'm not suggesting they change if they're a builder. They all of a sudden go out and go, oh, I'm going to pivot and I'm going to be in a totally different industry or anything like that. So you
Or
still,
more like within the industry, that like you said that person's known for mom and pop developers, or what's it called? And so how you help them like reposition themselves within their own industries without you know feeling like they've totally scraped away their identity as a whole.
yeah, yeah. So I don't think their identity changes that much. It's more like for example, I'll give you an idea, like with the construction industry, right? So since 2020, prices have gone up. We've like prices of construction materials have gone up massively.
Mm,
So builders, for example, were booming in that period. Everyone was building. There was free money coming in from the government, all that sort of thing over that 2020 period. 2026, interest rates are going up, prices are going up,
mm.
everything's shifting massively. You've almost got to be rich these days to be able to build a home. So all of a sudden, the avatar changes from, and I'm finding this a bit with a number of the clients that I deal with. Yeah, whereas before they might be dealing with, let's say you're building new homes, the 35 to 45. Now I'm hearing more and more that it's a 55 plus. Yeah, and so
Oh,
maybe
okay.
someone with battle scars who's building a second home, as an example. So if you haven't noticed that shift and you're still marketing generically, all of a sudden it gets tougher and tougher and tougher. And who was your avatar is no longer your avatar. So now it's like, okay, well, let's pivot and let's really market and focus on on the needs of the 55 plus, the needs of people who've got battle scars. uh, you know, that sort of, that sort of thing is very, very powerful. Or if your clients are coming from interstate because the locals don't have money, but the interstates are moving north, and you're based north, for example, then you can market specifically to the needs and pains of the interstate people, which are different somewhat because there's a lot of trust involved. If you're going from Sydney up to Cairns and you're going to build a home and you're not going to be there, and you've heard about all these horror stories, you're a different buyer than if you're a local in Cairns, as an example. So there's
Sure.
all of these sort of things in terms of the positioning, but it requires you to go deep, whereas most people don't think of this, most business owners don't think of this on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, it's very true, actually. Very true. I think I think I had this even in my early career where I was like I think, they always said, like, say people buy on emotion but justify via logic, the whole thing there. And then for me, I think sometimes you hear like, oh, like you kind of like have this like figurative thing where like you're trying to shake them, say like, this product or service is going to help you. Why can't you not see it, or whatever it is? But I think it comes down to what you shared, the positioning, where they're at as well, and all those other things like you talk about, like demographics and psychographics, like what the beliefs are and everything. So it's very interesting because I think I had a client as well who wants to sell a certain thing a certain way. She believes her health product is like the one of the best things in Australia. I was like, that's not what people want, But we still went ahead at it, and then of course we get blamed as the agency because it wasn't getting much results. So I was like, you want it this way? My buddy at the time showed her another angle, etc. But like, it's almost like you try to throw something against the wall, hope it sticks, when people are not really buying it. It's crazy.
Yes. Yeah. There has to be the need, right? It's like rule number one. Yeah, like the whole Gary Halbert story about the starving crowd. I mean, that's number one. You can be the best. You can be the best copywriter in the world. You can hire the best marketing team in the world. But if you don't have a starving crowd, or at least a hungry crowd, it's going to be very, very tough.
Okay, now I want to ask on the other spectrum of things, because people hear like founders like Steve Jobs or like Elon or like Bill Gates. They created something that a lot of people at the time, like say the iPhone or the iPad, would not perceive to be a starving, hungry crowd at the time, but they managed to like blow their business out. So now every founder, like typically I have founders on the podcast, they'll say like they've been warned not to follow the path of like, here's my idea, the world should know about it, and they kind of like brute force away through. Like, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think what, like, if we look at what Steve Jobs did with the iPhone, right? He product simplified. Like the guy who wrote the book The Star Principle, Richard Koch, he talks about like simplifying. So it was like quite complex. Like if you used a phone before, you didn't know that it was painful, right? You had these little things, and if you wanted to send a text message and you wanted to do the letter T,
the keyboards,
you used to have to press it like 4 times to send the T, and it would take you forever to send a message. And then Steve Jobs came out, and he just streamlined that whole process in terms of he made it easy. So it was a pain, but it was a pain that people actually didn't know they had. They hadn't thought of that solution as as such. So when he came out with the iPhone, it was just like, it was like boom. And I know Steve Jobs. He was actually against. In somewhat, I read his biography, and he was against market research to a certain degree. Like he was like, I don't believe in market research because market research, if you, the lights just went off here, but the
automatic,
it's like the automatic lights. I think so. So, but one of the things that Steve Jobs, he was against market research, but the whole thing with that is people might go, well, if Steve Jobs says it, then it's true. But as you know, there's a lot of different varying opinions. So the reason I am so big in market research, I'm very big in actually talking to clients or prospects and finding out what their buyer's journey is. Because, for instance, I interviewed this client once, and or he wasn't a client. He was someone who decided not to go with my client. And one of the things he said, it was a solar company, and he said, I didn't choose, choose them because the competitor had a better technology. And I asked my client, I said, do you know about this technology? And he goes, no, I didn't. So, and at that point, he's got two options, right? He can learn about that technology and take it on, or
Mm-hmm.
he can learn about that technology and decide to sell against it. But if he doesn't have that data, if he doesn't even know what he doesn't know, then he's just going to get sideswiped and be losing business for years and years and years and years. But because he doesn't have the insight that it is. Likewise, I've interviewed people on like beds, right? Like selling, like on why they bought beds, and it's quite fascinating, like for advertising angles, because you can come up with, you can use all the AI you want to help you write your ads, right? But people don't realize that it's 40% of the game. Gary Benzavenger said it well before AI. 40% of the game is actually research. He
Okay.
said 40% was writing. I've never found it's actually 40%. I find it's even less writing. And then 20% editing. So 60% of that process of creating great copy has nothing to do with writing. So yeah, AI can actually help you write something, but if you don't have the right data to come in and you don't know what to look for, then it ends up being a schmozzle, which if you look at most websites which are AI generated, I mean, they're horrible, right? We build good homes and they're on time and they're on budget and they're just generic as anything.
Features, yeah.
And it's all about the research, the data, is really key. I mean, I think Steve Jobs has a point that you can be too much driven that way that you never actually do anything, and you just get stuck in the data and you never do anything. Or sometimes the data might be wrong and you've got to follow your gut feeling. I think there's a balance. There's a balance there. But I think if you're not doing the research and you're not understanding the data, you end up either making a lot of mistakes. Because here's the thing, I've got this belief that bad data leads to bad decisions. So I see this in the health field all the time. Like in the world of health. Like I look at a large percentage of the population, I go, they're poisoning themselves. They're just poisoning themselves. And why? Because they got bad data. Because they've fallen for some level of belief system, propaganda or whatever, and so they make bad decisions. That leads to bad health outcomes. But the same is true in marketing and business. If you have bad data, you're going to make bad decisions. If you haven't dug deep enough to understand that data, and sometimes the data is sitting there and you haven't looked at it. Like I'll ask questions and find out, 90+% of someone's clientele is coming from interstate. That totally changes the way that you market to them. Right? So, but if you don't have the data, the data was there. It's not like we need to learn anything new. The data's sitting there. You've just often got to dig and ask the right questions to pull the data out of your head or your client's head.
I really like that, actually. Things like, I think even go back to Steve Jobs' biography, I think because, I think he said he built the iPhone for himself and for the Apple employees because they were fed up with the keyboards and the Blackberries, for example, right? And I think he was also one of those guys that was in the right place in the right time, and plus his reputation preceded him. And so I think for founders or business owners, it's very hard to replicate that because timing and luck is something totally outside of control there. But I really like what you said, because I think a lot of the larger companies, they will get data, but they'll hire external third-party institutions or researchers who maybe don't even know their own company's product or service properly. You hear that. I mean, we're larger companies where they say hire one of the big fours, and then because the big fours are doing their own thing, they've been paid, so they start getting a bit relaxed, maybe, or they don't really know who's actually in charge of researching that. Then when they finally present to the clients, it's like, is either like bogus or totally wrong, or maybe something's off the mark a little bit there. So do you think maybe more like a hybrid approach, like having a client, maybe they have the budget to hire somebody internally to do the research, kind of like these days people saying, don't worry about hiring an agency or a freelancer, copywriter, marketer. Maybe do it yourself or get somebody involved in your business who can then do some marketing. What do you reckon about that?
Yeah, I don't think it needs to be expensive. Like, I don't think you need to go out and spend, get, McKinsey in there and spend
Yeah.
like $300,000 to understand it, right? Like, as a small business owner, it doesn't need to be super expensive. But even doing, 3 interviews with clients and asking them and digging up, like we do this with a number of clients, and use Adele Ravella's methodology. She's got a book called Buyer Personas, and go in there and really dig it up, and the insights it brings out are incredible. And plus, it also, they say, Robert Collier says, who's an old advertising guy, he's got a great book called the Robert Collier Letter Book. But one of his quotes is that the number one thing in advertising is you need to enter the conversation going on in the customer's mind.
So true.
Yeah. So what's the easiest way to enter the conversation going on in the customer's mind? It's to talk to them. Whether talking to them is sending out a survey, using via email and digging it up that way. Whether talking to them is actually doing phone calls and talking to them directly, or whether you go on Amazon and look at all the reviews of your product and get all the questions or whatever that is. But if you want to create great marketing, you need to do that research, because yes, you can put it into Claude or ChatGPT and go, well, what are the issues and all this sort of thing. But it's not going to be anywhere near as good as you actually talking to real buyers or real interested parties in your actual product. And once you've got those assets, if you are using AI, all your copy is going to be way better once you're clear on all of the research foundations, because you can prompt it and pull better data out of it and create much stronger communications right across the board.
I love that as well. Do you also believe that maybe the business owner or the founder should be, in some cases, demarketed themselves? Like not meaning like putting themselves in the ads, but like they should be having a more hands-on approach when it comes down to like the messaging, the headline, like what angle they want to go through for the next quarter, or when it comes to like say Black Friday or end of financial year. Do you think business owner should be more involved in that sense?
I think it definitely helps, to be really involved. I mean, I had a client I worked with for well over a decade, and John Gian from Knowledge Source, and he's a brilliant marketer. Like I used to joke to him, because I wrote his copy for over a decade. I used to say, I'm the world's most highly paid transcriptionist, because I just type out what you do and give it back to you. He could literally talk a sales letter. He'd go, he'd talk through the whole angle, and that was back before we had like Otter and all that. I'd be typing furiously to capture it all. But he had, I think it was like him and probably like one other team member in their marketing department, and he had a massive business, right? Then I know other people, and they've got like heaps of people in their marketing. And I think a reason why he was able to keep the marketing so tight, like he was probably getting the 10 times the results of other companies which had 5 times the staff in marketing.
Wow.
Like he was like a machine. But that's because he read everything on Dan Kennedy and Gary Albert and J.A. Like he had subscriptions going everywhere. He understood marketing at a really deep level. So I think that helps massively. Whereas a lot of business owners want to outsource the marketing, which is okay, but I think you need the foundational knowledge, because if you don't have the foundational knowledge, then it's easy to get misguided, let's say,
Mm.
because not necessarily because of any any ill will on anyone doing it, but someone's got to be guiding the ship. And if you go
Mm.
to someone who does Google ads, they're probably going to tell you they're going to run Google ads. Google ads are going to work. If you go, because that's what they understand, right? Like, so if you go to someone with Facebook, if you go to someone with, like there's so many different experts, but if you can guide them and you go, actually, that's not going to work now. This is going to work. And then we need to do this. And then we need to do that. And you're across it. I think that is a much better way of running it rather than just outsourcing it and hoping for the best. I've never found that is the best approach.
That's actually really true. I remember when I first started my agency, I was like cold DMing people on Facebook and LinkedIn. I think my second or third conversation was with a plumber, and he goes, "So you guys just be one of those agencies going to take 2 to 4K every month and do anything?" I was like, I had no context. I thought agency was like one of the best ways to help a business run. And it's like, that's my first time hearing like, oh wow, a lot of people have been screwed over by people who claim to know how to market their industry or their target markets, niches, industry, but didn't get the best results. So I was like, oh, smack in the face a little bit. Okay, so this is the reality. So that's a very good point. But like, I think not every business owner has the ability to like always like a guy that spend time and resources on like Dan Candy stuff there as well. So like, what can they do now? Because when sometimes I'm talking, I have one client right now who's very great. He wants to understand a bit more how it all works. Even down to the details of like cost cost per click, all that kind of side of things there, etc. But how do we should explain to a client maybe not so detail oriented, or they just want to kind of hand it off to you or to some other marketer and just kind of like, hey, get me leads, get me sales.
I think it's all what did Jim Collins saying good to great? Like when he surveyed all the great companies, he said one of the most important things is getting the right people on the bus. So I think it all boils down to that. Like if you don't have the skill in house, you've got to find the right people. How you find the right people? Maybe it's like that's might be word of mouth or
Trial and error.
being discerning. Yeah, but you got to find the right people. The same as anything, anything that you do, and there's different levels of quality. It doesn't matter what skill you're after, whether it's marketing or you're after a mechanic or someone to look after your IT. You've got to find the right people, and I think that's what it really boils down to. What I would say is having a basic level of knowledge, like just reading a handful of of Dan Kennedy's books or something like that will give you just to be able to tell who the right people are. That would give some really good insight, so you can see if someone actually knows what they're talking about. Or like basic copywriting, like copywriting books are good because there's a lot of agencies, for example, that are out there that are very good technically, but they don't know about positioning. They don't know about copy. So your messaging going out there isn't strong. So you need to know how to spot the difference between the two. Is really, I think, is critical. That's probably a good blog article I should write. How do you know? How do you know? Because it's a big decision, because let's say you're throwing $4,000 a month. That can be the difference between choosing the right person and the wrong person can have a massive impact on your business.
Yeah, actually, I was thinking of doing an offer like that in the past. I should do it again. Like just like, hey, here's how you pick a marketer. It doesn't have to be me. It doesn't have to be you, Scott. Can be, but it's how you actually choose somebody in your area. Kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah. Because I think that's a thing. Because not everyone has time. If you're working 60 hours a week and you don't have time to do it, it can be tough to find the time. But I would say, just reading a handful of books from the right people will just give you the insights to know the questions to ask.
Yeah, very good point. Now I'll go back to the topic of copywriting more so because say a brand new person wants to learn copywriting, or even like today's marketers, you got a lot of guys now and girls who are very big on uh, short form content. And then when like, for example, for myself, I was more into sales and business development. And when COVID hit, similar to you, I think I got bitten by the copywriting bug saying, well, two things: work from home, got to talk to people.
Yep.
Copywriting is salesmanship in print, so you can write out to more people rather than doing one-to-one or small group presentations, whatever it is. But like myself, my friends, and a few other people like super like shocked and dumbfounded that hey, this is a very long sales letter. Nobody reads this, or nobody speaks like this, or I think I was reading one of Stefan Georgia's. I went to a copy accelerator for a little bit, and I think I read one of sales letters for like a health product for blood pressure. It was like 42, 41 pages long. I was like nobody's gonna read this, you know? So like, I don't know, for you, we first started to now with all this experience on your belt, how do you, I guess what I'm looking for, how do you break it down and tell somebody like, hey, reason why we're doing such a long VSL, or reason why we're doing a shorter form content or landing page? How do you explain it to like somebody who's not maybe marketing or copywriting savvy? Sense.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole thing of the more you tell, the more you sell, right? So, and it's as true now as it ever was, except that people are often absorbing it in different ways. So they're sort of absorbing it in bite-sized pieces. So if we look at content marketing, for example, there's an interesting book called They Ask You Answer by Marcus Sheridan. And what he found is if someone absorbed 30 or more pieces of content, like he was talking blogs, but it could be podcasts, it could be YouTube videos, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But the conversion rate in a sales meeting, and he was selling swimming pools, jumped from the industry average of 10% up to 80%. So
Wow.
it's a massive amount, right? So that the whole thing is the more content someone can consume, the yeah, they're just going to be a more highly qualified clients. I mean, what we're doing now, podcasts. So I did buyer personas for a client, and they had no idea, but 80%, like 80%, I interviewed three people, and 80% of the weight on their decision for each one of them was the podcast, was from listening to the
Okay.
podcast. The client didn't realize that the podcast was that important, but once he has that, I said bad information, bad decisions, good information, good decisions. So once he's got that data, he goes, well, I'm going to push this podcast harder. Maybe I push for people to just listen to my podcast rather than to download my lead magnet or whatever, like he can make those sort of decisions. So people do still consume. I mean, I chatted with someone yesterday, and he's like, oh yeah, but the attention spans. I'm like, yeah, like because of people are swiping and they got their 30-second thing on Instagram or whatever, the
On
reels
TikTok, yeah, it's
and
crazy.
TikTok and
Yeah.
all that. So, oh, they don't read it. I'm like, yeah, but the most popular podcast in the world is still Joe Rogan, which is 3 hours. So,
Yeah.
like they still will. So if they're interested, they'll read a 40-page sales letter. The same as people will listen to a 3-hour Joe Rogan podcast if it's a topic that they're interested in. So we often get, because when we write web copy, so we'll do web copy, and we do it for a lot of builders in the construction, which is probably the hardest thing to sell, is construction, because people are making a decision worth $1 million,
Yeah.
$500,000, $1.5 million. This is not a small decision. So, but we will do websites which are often 50 to 100 pages of A4 pages. They might only be 6 pages, but they're 50 to 100 pages of text. And clients, one of the feedbacks we get is often clients will call them and they'll be ready to, they'll be pre-sold. So they'll be
Yep.
talking about them as my builder within, 10 minutes of talking to them, that sort of thing. And so they're pre-sold, but often they've read most of the website as a result of that. Why? Because obviously if you're going to buy a can of Coke, you're not going to read 100 pages about that can of Coke. So it's not a very big decision, right? But if you're going to spend $700,000, you're going to you're going to take the time to research in most cases.
I think also we share like the right research, the right avatar, what they're going through right now, and you reckon maybe also like what level of awareness they're part of. Eugene Schwartz, like what do you call it? Unaware, problem aware, solution aware, product aware, something. I don't know what the rest of them are, but I reckon like depending on the product selling and the market, it comes into the level of awareness as well.
Yeah, no, it definitely comes to the level of level of awareness. In terms of like if someone already knows your product and they already like it, they already want it, you might need less copy if you're going to that to that sort of market. And if they don't even know if they don't even know they've got a problem, then you've got a very different type of copy that you actually create, or a very different angle and hook that you're going to need. And that's where it all comes down to understanding your target, the nuances of your market, because you might have many avatars who come in at different levels of awareness. I mean, even with construction, you've got people who've built, I know some clients, and they do far better with second home builders, because second home builders respect them because they've got battle scars. It's sort of like, and I often think, often you're better off selling, if you are very, very good at what you do, you're better off selling to people with battle scars, because they will actually respect your knowledge and your expertise. Whereas someone who doesn't have battle scars is more likely to just want the cheapest price, because they don't know they don't know the pain that's involved in making the wrong decision.
But then it leads to that part, like, because we come from the marketing space, well, you're more experienced than about, like, when I first started getting into it, I'm like, wow, there's a lot of like different ways to sell to somebody. Is like, but say like talking to a client, maybe a small, medium-sized business owner, they want to, like, going back to the can of Coke, or maybe like selling a Jaguar or BMW, they don't need to run as many, they don't use as many words to sell, right? I mean, who's going to read a 42-page sales letter on a can of Coke unless something else? So it's just like, but how do you help yourself and your clients choose which, and help them see that, hey, this way of promoting or advertising is going to work better, versus them saying, hey, that person down the road use a billboard and they got like $1 million of sales in like the first quarter, blah, blah, blah. Or this person's running like TikTok ads, but then how do you help them shift their, I guess, maybe stubbornness, or maybe their narrow point of view, like, hey, this is going to the better way, or the better mechanism, or the better structure to sell your service or product.
And it's a trap that people can often fall into, is they go after, like I've heard this before. I know I want a website because, like, XYZ builders, because they're like killing it. They're absolutely killing it. And they've got no words on their website. It's just all pretty pictures and all that sort of thing. And so that's interesting. I say, how long has XYZ Builders been in business for? Oh, they've been in business for 25 years. Have they won any awards? Yeah, they've actually won 10 awards for the 10 years running. How many relationships do they have with architects and all that sort of thing? Oh, they've got a lot of relationships with that. I say, odds are, and you are a startup who's been in business for 2 years with no relationships, no awards, and like you're comparing chalk and cheese. And odds are that XYZ Builders is getting all of their business through reputation and relationships, which is great for them. But don't make the mistake of thinking that their website has a lot to do with their success, because it's not just, I think copy is a critical part of any business, but it's not the only thing, right? It's not the only thing which drives business. You've got relationships, you've got referrals, you've got awards and reputation and all of that sort of thing. They might be playing that game. But if you're a startup business and you're going to be advertising on Google and sending people to your website, and you want to play that game, you're playing two different games. You got to have two different sets of rules. So that's my that's what I see a little bit, and and it's a mistake to not know the game that you're playing.
Yeah, so true. I love that actually. I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna borrow that actually because I remember
Yeah.
like ages ago I had this like electrical client. Um, well, two things. He also said that hey, the larger client, this larger electrician company in Melbourne is doing very well, but like they've been promoting their latest award for some sort of like Australian Business of the Year award sort of thing, and you're just four-man team. I didn't know what I was saying back then. I'm just saying, hey, realistically, you're only just four-man team here in WA. Like, does anybody know you there as well? And of course, secondly, he wanted 100% guarantee in Google Ads, which is impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, okay, now we're not working together. Never mind that. But that's very cool. I'm going to use that as well. Um, I do have another question when it comes to copy now. Like now with AI, flooding every industry, every market, everybody's using it as well. Do you reckon now, like, going even a bit more like a pendulum swing, that taking a time to read and produce copy is going to be like one of the ultimate skill sets in the next decade or so, since everybody's using it now? And you can tell somebody's written. I'm still a novice myself, but it's how you can tell somebody's written a post or a email using ChatGPT or Claude. There's like no structure to it. It's kind of like, or they use one sentence prompt rather than give it the context that you said. Like, what do you reckon of that for the next few years or decade?
It's going to be interesting because I'll often get asked, like I'll go to conferences and people are like, "Oh, how's your business going with with AI?" Like, and I mean, for us, it's gone even better. I don't think it's because of AI. I think we're better operators than we were, you know, 5 or 10 years ago. But one of the things that we look at, I look at a lot of websites. Like we'll go out and sponsor events, and we'll look at all
Mm,
these websites, and they're all terrible. Yeah, and a lot of them use AI. They're not all terrible, but I'd say 95% are very average. Like they're generic copy and all of that sort of thing. And they've all got the access to the AI. So like they've got access to ChatGPT, they've got access to Claude. So it's not so much the tool because like particularly like Claude, it's an amazing tool, right? I use
mm,
it. Yeah, it's a great tool, but it's knowing how to use it because I give the because it's knowing how to get it's a thinking process behind it, which
yeah.
is what creates the incredible result that you can get from it. So I give the analogy of design, right? So I don't have a graphic design. I wouldn't say I don't have a bone in my body. I'm sure I could learn it if I really, really wanted to and really focused on it. But I'm not a natural design person. It's not like a core skill of mine. So if I look at like if I wanted to, I can go to ChatGPT and I can prompt it and I can get a much better result than I would do personally. If I was just forced to do it. But I can't do like uh, some big company is not going to hire me as their brand and design manager because I don't understand colors. I don't understand all the different shades. I don't understand the
Yeah.
psychology of of how it all works. I don't have 5 years of experience of looking at things and thinking about it all day and night. And so that's whereas a great designer, I am sure, could create incredible designs much faster than they perhaps could have 5 years ago
Mm,
with the aid of AI. And it's the same with everything. And I actually think the people who have the biggest advantage are the people who have been. I was chatting with a friend of mine, Nick Thackerell, several months ago. He's a very smart guy who runs Leads Hawk. And we were talking about how it's the old school people who actually had to struggle and write that 20-page sales letter who have the best advantage now because they've been through the pain and they understand the fundamentals at such a deep level. Whereas if I was coming in now, it would be painful to understand the fundamentals when I can just press a button and
yeah.
get 1,000 words just popping out. Yeah, like,
So true.
it's. Do you know what I mean? But when you've gone through it, you understand it. You understand all the fundamentals at such a visceral level. You can look at something and go, "No, that's wrong." Like I'll constantly do things with copy where I go, "That's the wrong hook." and I'll be like, that needs to change. It needs to be changed to this, needs to be changed to that. Obviously, you can change it a lot faster with the AI, but you've got to be able to spot it in order to do it. Yeah, and that's where the art form is, which is difficult if you haven't put in the 1 to 10,000 hours to really master a skill.
I love that. I think the keyword there is fundamentals there. Even myself right now, I actually like spending my Saturday mornings just reading and looking to like sales letters again, more like the like Gary Halbert letters again as well. Just kind of get myself re-jig, you know? So like, because I think, I mean, I've not been copywriting for a long time, but I think when AI came out, I think, I took a little like the shorter route. Like, okay, look, I was going to plug in this person's template and hope for the best, you know? But now I'm like, I want to understand better because I think I heard from somebody that, the pendulum swing again. There's a lot of AI slop coming out, including graphics, copy, websites, videos. But if you can even upskill yourself a little bit than the rest of the market or competitors, you actually do much better. So I was like, writing is going to be one of those critical, like mental skills that's going to be required for the long run. So I'm like, I want to still train that one really well. So yeah.
Yeah, and if you don't have that ability or that skill, right, like everyone's got the same access to AI technology. So obviously you can write words. It's not hard to create words now. The value is not in, I've created I put together 2,000 words of slop. It's the quality, because it's like this. Imagine all the restaurants in your city were free, right? They're all free. Okay, which one are you going to go to? Are you going to go to the restaurant, which is a 5-star Michelin, double hatted restaurant where the steak is just like, just luscious and tender, or are you going to go to the crappy, the crappy kebab shop on the corner if you've got a choice of two of them, right? You're obviously going to go to the good one. Well, it's the same with content. Yeah, it's the same with content. You're going to go to the best content. Yeah, you're going to go to where you're going to get the best, the best quality, and that's what I would say. So you've still got to work to make whatever it is, because everyone's got access to the same tool, and if you're just serving up slop, people aren't going to want it.
Yeah, it's just something that came to my mind because like I was talking to somebody else as well. I think he's also starting to see, like he runs a software company here in Perth, and he's starting to see that you're paying somebody expertise that actually understands his business, willing to sit down, because he's a small business owner. He's probably got like 7 or 8 staff, but he's like, I can't really afford an agency or another in-house marketer who wants a certain salary. You know what I mean? So he's like, I'm going to use ChatGPT or Claude now because it's much better for what he heard. But then he's like starting to appreciate when he and I talk back and forth. Like, I'm starting to see that, hey, it's worthwhile paying something, even just for a consult, to just kind of review your copy, review your marketing strategy versus like putting your faith and hope in ChatGPT, you know?
Yeah.
He wants to delegate. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And it's quite, like it's there is a mindset around there that, hey, I can just use ChatGPT or Claude or whatever, and it will take care of everything.
Delegate everything.
Yeah, but that's where the skills become even more important, because if you do get skilled and you understand the fundamentals, you can get a lot better result out of Claude a lot faster than you could 10 years ago. So it's not like, I believe those fundamental skills, like let's say, I don't know, if I was if I wanted to do the design for my own house, I'm sure there's like AI design studios and all this sort of thing, but I still wouldn't do it myself, because I don't know the first thing. Even though I work in the construction niche, I'm not like a skilled architect. Yeah, I don't have years of looking at like all the different hundreds types of designs, and so I can't really think in that way. So how am I going to prompt it? I can say, give me a design for a house, and I want it to be, I want it to be big and spacious, but I'm not going to get the intricacies. I'm not going to go, oh, hang on, this design is going to cost 30% more because it's got more corners in it. And I could actually cut out these corners by making them curved walls. And then, you know what, we could make, if we made this, if we made this 3 meters higher, it would only cost 7% more, but it would make the home look incredible. I don't have that data or that knowledge or that understanding, and I don't know if any of what I said is true either. So don't anyone take my design advice.
Make a note of that.
Yeah, that's right. So, but do you know what I mean? Like you just can't prompt it if you don't know properly.
Yeah, so true. I like that. But like say for yourself, Scott, like now you've been in this game for a very long time. Like, what are you excited about now for yourself, like in this year, in the future? Like any exciting projects working on, or any trends or more pendulum swings you're seeing in your space in Australia and business in general?
Yeah, I mean, my big thing at the moment is working with clients at a deeper level. That's sort of where I'm heading. Before you go to an agency or you go anywhere, is to find out what's actually wrong and getting clear on your core story, unique selling proposition, your positioning, what the roadmap is, all the different ways that you can achieve your objectives based on what they are. Because often, we get obsessed with Google, Facebook, all that sort of thing. But maybe for some businesses, they just need to reach out to more joint venture partners or have more dinners, or they're getting 80, like there's so many, or use direct mail, or, so really what I'm quite excited about is, customizing that path for each business so they get the result, and doing the work that goes underneath the marketing, so the messaging is right across the board. Because there's a big advantage for people with AI is they can do a lot more, and they can get a lot more content out there, and they can do a lot more. But if you don't get the foundations right, it all becomes slop, and it's just more of, it doesn't mean it ends up in a good result.
Yeah, so true, so true. That is very cool. And I know you mentioned a lot of different books. I definitely want to before I know it's being respecting the time as well. We'll definitely leave your link to of your website and your socials as well. But you mentioned a lot of books, a lot of resources. Like, say for now in 2026, like any particular maybe 3 to 5 books or resources you recommend for people to get better at marketing, positioning, copy, or because even ads are getting more expensive day by day now as well. So any sort of top 3 or 5 resources you recommend for our listeners?
I mean, a really simple one is I think it's called The Ultimate Sales Letter by Dan Kennedy.
Oh yeah,
I'm just looking. Yeah, that's a great book. I'm just looking in my bookcase now to see if I can find any that are top of mind. I think that's a great book. I think getting everything you can out of all you got by Jay Abraham is really good from a marketing perspective. I think Jay Abraham's one of the most creative thinkers that there is out there. And I think even just some of the basic, from 80/20, anything by Richard Koch is good. The 80/20 Manager is a great book too. I really enjoyed, by Richard Koch. One of the things I got out of the Richard Koch book is the power of networking. I didn't understand the power of networking until I read that book. I was always a direct response guy, and I thought networking was a waste of time. And then I read that book, and he talked about the green lottery tickets and the red lottery tickets. And he says,
okay,
I forget the colors, but there were 2 different colors. And he said the green lottery tickets are, he says you can only have 5 of them in your life. They might be your career, like you're a great copywriter, or you're a great strategist, or a great marketer, or you're a great magician, or a great dentist, or whatever it is. But you can't have you can't be the best in 100 careers, for example. You've got limited opportunity there. He says, but the red lottery tickets, he says you can have hundreds of them, and he called them loose connections. And he said you never know where a loose connection is going to lead. And so anyway, I was reading it while I was in Fiji. It was a long time ago now, but I'm writing down all of the different, all of my best clients at the time. And I'm like, how did I get them? And I went, oh, I got them because they were introduced to me by them. And that person was introduced to me by that person. And that person was introduced to me by that person. And it was generally about probably 5 to 8 deep in terms of the connection. So it wasn't going to a networking event, grabbing Ian's card, calling Ian up the next day and selling to him. It was this whole thing of meeting Ian, and then Ian introduced me to someone else and someone else and someone else and someone else. And then you get this big elephant client as an example. And at that time I went, wow, that's where, that is such a big key. And I think it's something people, and again, it's going deep, right? It's doing the research. You get this aha moment. I go, how have I been so stupid up until now? This was right in front of me all the whole time.
Yeah.
So that's a great book. The 80-20 manager is a very, very good book. I think. I've read so many books. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head of some of the some of the other ones. I mean, the old school ones like the tested advertising methods, those, or how to write a good advertisement by Victor Schwab. I think they're really good. Really good reads as well. So yeah.
I'll keep that in mind because, I think throughout this entire conversation, you kept referencing a lot of books which I heard from other marketers as well. It seems like the old school ones is like somehow the principles are just it's a lifetime of principles that was regardless what era or decade or generation it is, right? The fact that Dan Kennedy wrote those books with all the experience on his belt showcases still works today. I mean, you're probably the 500 person I spoke to in the marketing space today. Yeah, Dan Kennedy, Jay Abraham. Yeah, I think that's true. Yeah, I find those old books. I'll put the list down as well because those are true. And you go to the networking part. It's so true. Even for myself, I thought I could sit behind my desk and write some sales letters and videos. It will attract the right clients. But even a lot of the larger enterprise clients, so in conversations now or prospects, it's those all came from networking. It wasn't like they read my sales letter. Like the CFO did not read my sales letter. He's like, oh, this person introduced me to so-and-so. Ian came in the mix. I don't think he can ever do that sometimes with ads, unfortunately,
Yes. Well, it's like a shortcut, right? Like it's a shortcut to trust is relationships. And I don't think it's an or thing. I think it's it's an and thing. Because the greatest shortcut to trust is, I've known you, and then you, like, even how we met, right? Phil introduced us, so there's natural trust there because you've come through a connection. So which is what sales copy can do at scale. Like if you've got blogs and emails and you've got 2,000 emails going out, then you're building trust slowly with hundreds of people at a time. It's just done in a different way than the networking way. But they're both, if we look at the foundations of it all, they're both about building trust. And in terms of making sales, particularly for high value services, which is why networking works so well, is it's more high trust than ever. Yeah, it's all more high trust than ever. And the question you need to ask with all your marketing and sales is, how do I generate more trust so that clients come to me pre-sold? That's what we want. We want pre-sold clients. So we're shooting from the free throw line rather than trying to land the ball from the end of the court. And I think that's a thing that networking can do. And that's what the right marketing ecosystem can do. Because marketing now is I look at it as more of an ecosystem. Yes, the sales big long sales letter can cut through and can do that, but I also look at it as more of an ecosystem because people will read your blogs, they'll get your emails, they'll do all of that sort of thing. And it's very different than it was 15 years ago when there was no blogs or videos or access to endless information.
Yeah, so true. Well, thank you, Scott, for your time. Where's the best place we can find you? You're most active on?
Yeah, so if you go to my website, scottbywater.com.au, you'll find that, and that's you can go there, and then I mean, I'm posting. I think I post videos daily or several times a week anyway on LinkedIn and Instagram. So they're probably the best places. And if you just look up my name, Scott Bywater, you should find me on both of those. Platforms.
Amazing.
Thanks for tuning to The Shifan Show, turning expertise into evergreen digital assets that work independently from social media platforms. You can find out more with the Prosperant publishing system that does this exactly in the details and the show notes below. See you next time.